Hello and welcome to 10 Minute Tabletop. I'm Devin.
And I'm Darren.
And here are the biggest stories in tabletop gaming in 10 minutes or less so you can get back to playing the game.
Our first story today is that another study claims that Dungeons & Dragons is actually beneficial for your mental health.
A recent peer-reviewed study in the Games Health Journal, Volume 13, found that playing tabletop RPGs has positive effects on mental health. To be specific, participants demonstrated significant decreases in depression, stress, and anxiety, and significant increases in self-esteem, self-efficacy over the study period.
Is this study about me? Because this is sounding pretty accurate. The study saw 25 participants play D&D for 1 hour per week for 8 weeks, reports EN World. The surveys were taken before, during, and after the sessions. And the full paper can be found in the video description and goes on to say that TTRPGs may have potential utility as a well-being intervention or prevention program.
Why is this important?
Well, there are a ton of stories about the impact of tabletop RPGs on neurodivergent people and prison inmates and the beneficial impact that they have made on them.
It's great because this does help destigmatize a hobby that is, of course, ever growing. It also tells us as humans how important community is to us, how important it is to have these friendships and have these kind of experiences and moments of play. And it's great to begin to see that, feeding the inner child is healthy for you.
And from my personal experience, tabletop RPGs have helped me a lot. I don't know about you.
In our next story, Asmodee splits off from its parent company and assumes a bunch of debt.
The Swedish gaming company Embracer Group split itself into 3 after recent financial woes. The new companies resulting from the split are Coffee Stain and Friends, focused on smaller, free-to-play video games, Middle-earth Enterprises and Friends, which is dedicated to big-budget video games, and Dark Horse Comics, and then tabletop-centric Asmodee. In its current form, Asmodee is in charge of many well-known board games like Heat, Pedal to the Metal, and Ticket to Ride, as well as tabletop RPGs like The Legend of the Five Rings and the Star Wars FFG.
Now, what's wild about this is Asmodee ended up taking on $700 million in debt after this split. So why is this important? So when you split a company into multiple companies, right, because you want to focus on one, actually GE recently did this, you can essentially just take your debt and put it on one of those companies that splits off. And that, of course, will do great if you're a public company. That'll be fantastic for your stock. It is kind of like a dirty play, but Asmodee doesn't seem like they're going to have any problems. They do talk about where they're going to continue doing mergers and acquisitions like that. That's really kind of what grew them originally. They're buying up other board game companies. They were buying up other board games. And that's what allowed them to grow. But $700 million in debt is huge to undertake. But what's wild about this is if they end up going under because of the debt that they've assumed in this split, it would take down one of the largest tabletop gaming companies out there. So there's a lot riding on this split for Asmodee to continue to succeed. And I would hate to see anything bad happen to them because of this debt assumption that they've had to go under in the split. Now, some people also thought that Hasbro would maybe do this with Wizard of the Coast. That's not going to happen. The IP of Dungeons & Dragons is way too valuable. The IP of Magic the Gathering is way too valuable. If you looked at the earnings call, they, of course, were doing great numbers for them in Q1. So Hasbro isn't looking to offload any debt to Wizards of the Coast. It's doing great for them.
Yeah, they're going to hold on to Wizards of the Coast if there's any indication.
Hey, thanks for tuning into 10 Minute Tabletop. We want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, StartPlaying.games.
So you want to play a tabletop RPG like Dungeons and or Dragons, but you can't find a group? You tried looking on Discord, but you joined 10 servers and all you found was enough flakes to fill a cereal bowl? Facebook groups and message boards were no better with people ghosting you or bailing after one game, and Reddit, well, you repressed your memories of what happened at Reddit. But don't give up. If you want to find a reliable game that fits your schedule and playstyle, you just need Start Playing, the #1 site for finding games. You can search for a game by time and day, and Game Masters are backed by verified reviews. Regardless of your experience level, it's never been faster and easier to find a dedicated tabletop group. So if you're ready to play, head to startplaying.com today to start your adventure.
Our third story this week is there was a Roll20 Discord app announcement. So Roll20 dropped a big surprise this week. Their whole dang virtual tabletop will be a Discord activity. That means you'll soon be able to play Roll20 games in Discord. The full Roll20 virtual tabletop, along with the maps, tokens, modules, and more, will show up as a shared screen within your Discord call. Roll20 Pro subscribers get access to this feature as a beta testing starting as soon as April 30th.
And those beta users can invite those with free accounts to play, but at least one user must have a pro subscriber access to the beta. Roll20 aims to have this feature fully available to all users later this year. Now, why is this important? Roll20 continues to be competitive in an ever-growing VTT market, and they're using the classic business advice. Meet your customers where they are.
Exactly. I mean, I personally use Discord and have always used Discord for all of my virtual Dungeons and Dragons games.
Now, Start Playing has reported that around 80% of
seems about right.
users play Dungeons and Dragons on Discord or use Discord in some way of Dungeons and Dragons, other tabletop RPGs.
Yeah, to collaborate with each other, to schedule, whatever. It's just a way to keep your group in one place. So it's really smart and genius to go exactly where all the D&D players already are and be like, well, let's just make it even easier. And
so there's JumpGate, which is the new code base for Roll20's VTT, which allows it to be faster and more efficient. And that's what it will be in the Discord activity, is that version of Roll20. And if you think about it, this is also great for people that don't have, fast laptops or really powerful computers, because now instead of having a browser and Discord both competing for resources, you'll have Discord just competing for resources against itself.
Yeah, you can save some precious, precious RAM.
I would say this is probably one of the most interesting things that came out about VTTs this year so far.
Yeah, I would say so.
And our last story, Matthew Lillard and Critical Role team up to make whiskey.
A new nerdy whiskey will be coming soon by the way of Matthew Lillard's whiskey brand, Fine Familiar Spirits, based on Critical Role's Vox Machina campaign. The new whiskey in question, Sandcake's Hide, is a take on the once fictional spirit as described in the Vox Machina campaign, which is inspired by the insectoid Critical Role monster, the Sandcake.
The bottle's design is said to remain faithful to the original description from the show and will include a fantasy journal written by Jasmine Buller, as well as a map designed by cartographer Devin Rue. Sandcake's Hide is set to be available on May 2nd for 3 weeks only at the retail price of $99.99.
And why is this important? The tabletop RPG industry has shown players to have a desire to spend outside of the hobby, but there is a limit to what exists outside of the odd collaboration with Converse or Lego, etc. But truly expanding category sales can lead to a healthier industry. I mean, the more people see D&D collaborations and all these like various forms of media category products, it'll just expand the culture's awareness of D&D as a whole.
If you think about it, if you've ever go to a convention and you kind of walk the convention hall, there's a lot of the same but different.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dice brands that are the same but different. There's a lot of miniature brands, the same but different. There's publishers where they have their actual books there, but there's a lack of diversity in actual category items for tabletop role playing. And that's why when something new comes out, it is really, really successful. So Matthew Lillard, launching Beetle and Greb, he's got that tabletop RPG vibe. He knows the gamer life. We've talked to him before here on Total Party Chill, and he's obsessed with games. He liked the idea of doing a whiskey. But what's interesting here is he's partnering with Critical Role, right? It's going to leave very little room for anyone else to come and try to do a spirits in the tabletop industry. If he gets Paizo next, he's probably cornered the market for spirits in tabletop. Fine Familiar Spirits will be the place to launch a spirits brand if you're in tabletop RPGs.
Yeah, there's one thing nerds like to do. It's spend their money on little nerdy things.
I know. I love it. We love it. But here's the thing. I want a mezcal.
Oh.
What do you want? You get a fancy.
It would be a whiskey. I'm sorry. It's true. If I were to choose anything, it would be
you like a Cyclops whiskey?
It would be a little X-Men whiskey. Yeah. I would pull out that credit card so fast. I'm a simp. What can I say? I do see those things and I go quick to my wallet. So
those are all the stories we have for you today. Thanks so much for tuning in. And if you want to support the show, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/Total Party Chill. And another way to support the show is sharing it with your friends, your family, your enemies. Comment, like, subscribe, any of that goodness. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.